Dr. Larry Pettin tells a story of a pastor friend of his who's a pastor of a large church. And one day, one night, he had a dream that really shook him up. He went to Dr. Pettin and shared his dream. And in the dream, this is what he saw. He said he was in the worship service in the church, and the choir was up singing it's with all of its gusto, but as their words were moving, no noise was coming out. He looked into the congregation and they were singing, but there was nothing coming out of their mouths either. He himself got up to preach his standard sermon on Sunday, and as he opened his mouth to preach, nothing came out of his mouth. It was just silence. Absolutely no sound at all in the entire worship center. And then he said in his dream that he looked up into the balcony and there was one little girl. And she opened her mouth to sing and put up her arms, and she sang, "Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me." And from that moment, he woke up and he was instantly confused. And he said, "I don't know what this means, but I didn't like it." And he asked the Lord what he was dreaming. He asked the Lord to make sense of it. And God spoke to him clearly in the Holy Spirit and said, "Pastor, what you saw was a picture of what I see in your ministry, in your church every Sunday morning. People are singing and you are preaching, but I hear nothing. Your heart is not focused on me. You are focused on yourself. The only person that I heard in your church last Sunday was this little girl in the balcony who matters very little to very few people. But she matters greatly to me. Because she came to church that day with the right motive to love me with all of her heart." It's a powerful illustration. She came with the right motive to love me with all of her heart. And I think that so oftentimes in our Christian walks or in the church, we can have such an emphasis on doing stuff. On doing stuff for God. We've got to do this, we've got to do that, we've got to have this ministry and that ministry, we've got to reach this group and that group, we've got to look a certain way, and if we do, we're going to look right and we're going to look great. And we're going to be doing it the right way. You know this is that's how it works. So people say, well, what ministries does your church have? What is it doing? And I think those questions are good as long as the most important thing is in place. Relationship. Relationship with God. I'm just going to move this. I think I'm kicking this thing. Relationship with God is what we're told is first and foremost the most important thing to God. And it can become so easy to lose sight of that aspect. I mean, let's be honest. Our personal time with God usually gets held until the very end of the day if there's enough time. Is it that way for some folks? Good. But for a lot of us, we can put it off. We can say, oh, maybe I'll get to it, because really I'm not going to get dinged if I don't get to it. You know, I mean, oftentimes we'll have a project we've got to work on, or a paper, or a test, and so we know we've got to get everything ready and right, and that can take priority. Because if we don't do it, then we're going to have a hard time at work, or we're going to miss whatever we're supposed to do, and we can get caught up in the stuff that we're supposed to do, and actually get sidetracked from that which is most important, relationship. At the end of our lives, it's not going to be about what did you do. I think that that's right if the answer to the biggest question, how did you love my son, is right.
Help us spread the message. Click on the donate button below or go to shermanoakspc.org/donate. Thank you.